My parents get a salary from me on the first of every month, and I don't send them a rupee. I don't have a UPI setup, nor do they have to keep asking me for money every time. Their 50,000 rupees just appears every month in their account. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I set that up, so you can copy the framework for your parents too. Hi, I'm Madhika, and this is NRI Shaala, a channel built for NRIs, brought to you by Aspora, where we're building a global financial ecosystem for NRIs worldwide. If you are figuring out the financial side of living abroad while your family is back home, hit subscribe. This is exactly the kind of thing we talk about every week. Most of us NRIs don't have a real parents plan. We have a guilty UPI habit. Hospital bill comes, you quickly push some money. They hint about a home repair, you send a random amount. Bonus comes, you send an amount as a gift. There's no real structure, and because there's no plan, they feel awkward asking for money, and you feel guilty whether you send or you forget. This video is about how I killed that guilt loop and turned it into a clean, boring pension-like credit that just shows up every month. Let's anchor this with one specific family. Names changed, but you'll probably see your own parents in this. Aditi is 33. Working in Dubai, making around 3 to 3.5 lakh rupees a month in rupee terms. Her parents live in Pune. Her dad is a retired PSU engineer. Her mom used to run a small coaching class and is now mostly at home. Middle class, 2 BHK, comfortable but not fancy. Before this plan, their money picture looked like this. A small government pension, a few old FDs and no big loans. Income was scattered, and FD interest kept changing every time something matured and got renewed. Monthly spending covered society maintenance and home costs, groceries, medicines, a cook or maid, utilities and mobile, and the occasional small outing. Emotionally, this is where it hurts. They hated asking for money and would wait to see if something landed in their account. Aditi, on the other hand, is constantly worried and keeps thinking, are they cutting corners on health because they feel guilty to ask me? So I set 2 rules. 1, they should never have to ask. 2, even if Aditi loses her job, their monthly salary should continue for a long time. I picked 50,000 rupees per month as their target number. That 50,000 rupees comfortably covers their basics, housing, groceries, medicines, domestic help, utilities, and what I call dignity extras. Eating out, festivals, small gifts, maybe a short trip. Crucially, 50,000 rupees is not their full budget. It's the top-up after adding their own pension and interest. Think of it as a parent's budget calculator. Step 1. List their monthly expenses. Step 2. Subtract pension plus interest. Step 3. Whatever gap is left becomes the monthly salary the system needs to produce. In their case, the gap came to about 45 to 50,000 rupees. So I locked 50,000 rupees per month as the system output. I added one more constraint. Don't assume Aditi will send fresh money forever. The plan should mostly run on a dedicated corpus they already have. She can send money occasionally, but this system has to work even if she can't. So first, let's take a deeper look at their default plan, what most Indian parents already have. Scenario 1, everything in FDs. FDs feel safe, but they have 3 big issues. Interest rates move. Interest is taxed as regular income at their slab rate every year, not just at maturity. So if they try to pull out too much every month, the principal starts shrinking faster than they realize. So either their FD ladder is conservative and their monthly income is lower than what they actually need, or they target 50,000 rupees and burn through capital. Scenario 2, ad hoc UPI from the child. Aditi sends money when a bill shows up, when guilt shows up, or when a bonus shows up. Money lands in their savings account, sits idle, loses value to inflation, or gets spent randomly. There is zero predictability and no system. So here's the framework that I used. I call it the 3-bucket pension. Bucket 1 is safety. Bucket 2 is the income engine. And bucket 3 is growth. Bucket 1's job is peace of mind. I keep roughly 24 months of the 50,000 rupees income in extremely safe instruments, short-term debt, high-quality FDs, or similar low-volatility options. That's about 15 to 16 lakh rupees as a shield. If markets fall or there's a big medical bill, this is what I tap first. This bucket is not for returns, it's a buffer. Bucket 2 is where the core of the corpus sits and where the monthly salary comes from. I use 2 to 3 diversified funds, balanced advantage or conservative hybrid style with a mix of equity and debt for smoother behavior. From here, the parents get a systematic withdrawal plan or SWP. A systematic withdrawal plan is a facility where you invest a lump sum in a mutual fund and then withdraw a fixed amount at regular intervals, monthly, quarterly, or annually, while the remaining money stays invested. On each withdrawal date, the fund sells just enough units at that day's NAV and credits the fixed amount to your bank account. So in our case, I tell the fund house, on the 1st of every month, send 50,000 rupees to this bank account. They redeem the required number of units and transfer the money, and the rest of the investment stays inside, working. Bucket 3 is the growth engine with higher equity. This bucket is not for paying this year's bills. Its job is to work in the background so that your parents' salary doesn't die after a few years. Bucket 3 holds growth-oriented investments, typically equity-heavy mutual funds, things like flexi-cap, large and mid-cap. Over long periods, equity mutual funds have historically done a better job of beating inflation than fixed income alone, which is exactly what you need to preserve purchasing power. But you are not running the monthly SWP from this bucket. Instead, you let it compound for many years, and then from time to time, you move parts of the gains from bucket 3 into bucket 2. That way, as bucket 2 slowly gets used to paying the 50,000 rupees per month, bucket 3 acts like a refill tank that keeps topping it up. Think of bucket 2 as your daily water tap, and bucket 3 as the overhead rainwater harvesting tank. You don't drink directly from the rain tank, but when the tap starts running low, you release the valve to refill the base. Let's run simple rounded numbers so you can see how this plays out. Assume a total corpus of 50 lakh rupees for this example. Step 1. Total dedicated to parents' plan is 50 lakh rupees. This is a mix of old FDs, idle savings, and some money Aditi allocates permanently for this purpose. Step 2. Split into buckets. We use a 20-60-20 split as a starting point. 20% in bucket 1, which is the safety bucket, about 10 lakh rupees. 60% in bucket 2, which is the income engine, about 30 lakh rupees. And 20% in bucket 3, about another 10 lakh rupees. A planner can tweak this, but it's a good base structure. Step 3. Can bucket 2 actually support 50,000 rupees per month? From roughly 33 lakh rupees, we're asking for 50,000 rupees a month, which is about 7.8 lakh rupees a year of withdrawals. We're not promising a fixed 7 to 8% return. This is just a ballpark withdrawal rate many planners use as a starting point for long-term income from a balanced portfolio. If markets do reasonably well, part of that 7.8 lakh rupees is covered by growth and part by drawing down capital in a controlled way. If markets underperform for a few years, you have dials to adjust. Temporarily reduce the SWP or lean more in bucket 1 while giving bucket 2 and 3 time to recover. Now let's connect it back to their real life. Say their own pension plus interest gives about 30 to 35,000 rupees per month. This system adds 50,000 rupees per month and they're suddenly at roughly 80 to 85,000 rupees a month of predictable inflow. That means rent and groceries, medicines and help are covered, annual health checkups can be planned, and festivals or a short trip no longer feel irresponsible. Of course, please keep in mind that numbers here are illustrative, not advice. The framework stays the same. The exact corpus, splits, and withdrawal rate should be customized according to your needs and depending upon your parents' age, health, city, and tax situation. Now for the boring part that actually matters: ownership, banking, tax, and paperwork. For a parent's pension plan, the investments are usually in one or both parents' names. If both parents are in lower tax slabs, splitting the investments between them can reduce overall tax because each one gets their own exemption limit and slab structure. You decide which parent is first holder and whether the other is joint holder, because that affects nominations and what happens operationally if one parent passes away. As an NRI, your money starts abroad, but this plan is for rupee expenses in India. Broadly, NRE accounts hold fully repatriable foreign-sourced money, and NRO accounts are used for rupee income in India, such as rent, pension, and interest. For parents' pension that will be spent in India, routing through the NRO side often makes more sense, while NRE remains your cross-border flexibility bucket. FD interest in a parent's name is treated as income from other sources and added to their total income, taxed at the slab rate, with TDS kicking in once annual interest crosses certain thresholds. For bucket 2, we stick to equity-oriented funds. Basically funds that for tax purposes maintain at least about 65% in domestic equity. Over a long horizon, this often leaves more post-tax money in your parents' hands compared to running the same income purely from FDs taxed at slab rate. One more thing to keep in mind. Don't run the mutual funds from your own NRI folio. If you invest via your NRO account, the fund house has to deduct TDS on the gains portion of every mutual fund payout at NRI rates. A cleaner way is to gift the lump sum to your resident parents and run the folio in their names. They can use their own tax slab plus senior citizen and long-time capital gains exemptions. But don't DIY this part blindly. Run the numbers for your parents' slab and get a CA or planner to check the plan before going all in. Update nominations on all investments and bank accounts. Document the whole plan in one place. Which funds, which accounts, and how the 3 buckets work. If siblings are involved, communicate clearly. Who will contribute what is meant to be used during parents' lifetime, and what happens later. If your family is comfortable, consider a basic will and appropriate power of attorney so that one emergency doesn't freeze the entire structure. This plan is meant to reduce stress so that you do not have to deal with drama 10 years later. Once this plan was live, very concrete things changed. On the first of every month, they knew exactly what was coming in. There's a salary-like credit that feels similar to their working years. Medical tests or festival expenses are no longer mini crises. They simply move money from the safety bucket if needed instead of panicking or cutting corners. For them, it doesn't feel like their child is sending money. It feels like they have a salary again. For Aditi, the background anxiety of, did I forget to send money this month? Fades away because the system runs whether she remembers or not. Any extra she sends becomes a surprise. I don't have 50 to 60 lakh rupees. What do I do? You start smaller. Maybe your first version targets 15 to 20,000 rupees a month instead of 50,000 rupees. You still use the same 3 buckets, just with smaller numbers, and build the corpus over 3 to 5 years as your income grows. What if markets crash? That's why bucket 1 exists and why we don't assume crazy return numbers. In bad years, you can reduce the mutual fund amount, lean more on bucket 1, or add fresh money if possible. The plan is meant to be adjusted over time. My parents' city is expensive. 50,000 rupees is too low. Perfect. That's exactly why you copy the framework and not the number. If your parents are in Mumbai, London, Dubai, or have heavy medical needs, your target might be 1.2 to 1.5 lakh rupees a month. That means you either need a larger corpus or you accept that you'll keep topping it up from your income. The numbers changed, but the structure doesn't. Before we wrap up, let me address a question that came up in our NRI exit video. One viewer asked, I have been in Canada for 12 years, but my financial corpus is only 2 to 3 crore rupees. I plan to live in a metro city in India with my wife, 3-year-old daughter, and parents. If both of us can find jobs in India, why do we still need 30x? The 30x number, which states that your corpus before moving back to India needs to be at least 30 times your yearly expenses in India, is not a return to India number. It's a financial independence number. If both you and your wife can find stable jobs in India, you may not need 30x at all. The real question is whether your corpus can absorb risks like job loss, career breaks, or higher than expected expenses. In that case, 2 to 3 crore rupees plus employment income can be very different from 2 to 3 crore rupees with no income. I hope that answers your question. So, Now it's your turn. In the comments, tell me which city your parents live in and what you think is a comfortable monthly number for them. If this helped, share it with one other NRI friend who keeps saying, I really should send more money to my parents. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.